Intelligence reports confirm Tehran has just finalized a covert, multi-billion-dollar agreement to control one of the largest untapped lithium deposits on the planet. How will the West respond when it realizes its entire arsenal of next-generation weaponry is dependent on a supply chain controlled by its primary adversary? The conflict of tomorrow will not be won with steel and gunpowder, but with lithium-ion and cobalt. It is the lifeblood of modern warfare. This metallic element, lighter than water, powers the unblinking eyes of surveillance drones that loiter for days above the battlefield. It fuels the guidance systems of hypersonic missiles and the silent electric motors of next-generation combat vehicles. Without a steady, uninterrupted supply of high-purity lithium, the technological superiority of the United States military and its allies evaporates. Command and control systems go dark. Drones fall from the sky. The entire architecture of 21st century defense grinds to a halt. This is the critical vulnerability, and Tehran has just moved to exploit it. For decades, the global focus has been on Iran's nuclear ambitions and its oil exports. While the world watched the centrifuges spin, a quieter, more insidious strategy was being executed by the economic directorates of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. It was a strategy not of nuclear deterrence, but of logistical dominance. The objective was simple: identify and control the choke points of the future's military-industrial complex. Their primary target became the essential mineral triad: lithium, cobalt, and specific rare earth elements. Using a network of shell corporations, state-backed mining conglomerates, and leveraged diplomatic relationships in resource-rich but politically unstable nations, Iran began a systematic campaign of acquisition. They operated not as a rogue state, but as a savvy, aggressive multinational corporation, outmaneuvering slower, more risk-averse Western competitors at every turn. The recent deal, confirmed by signals intelligence and human sources on 3 continents, represents the culmination of this decade-long effort. The agreement grants an Iranian proxy company, registered in a neutral third country, exclusive mining and processing rights for a period of no less than 50 years. The estimated yield from this single deposit could meet over 20% of the projected global military and industrial demand by the year 2035. This is not merely a commercial transaction. It is a strategic seizure of a vital global asset. Tehran now holds a knife to the throat of the West's defense supply chain. The weaponization of this control is not a question of if, but when. Sanctions become irrelevant when the nation under sanction controls the very materials needed to build the systems that enforce those sanctions. It is a perfect geopolitical paradox. Every 3 minutes, the strategic landscape shifts. This new reality now forces a critical question upon global markets. With Tehran holding leverage over the future of battery production, what does this mean for the valuation of defense contractors like Lockheed Martin and Raytheon, or for electric vehicle pioneers like Tesla and Rivian? The ripple effects are already being calculated in the trading pits of New York, London, and Tokyo. A new risk premium is being priced into the cost of global security. The mechanics of Iran's strategy reveal a deep understanding of Western corporate and legal weaknesses. While American and European firms were bogged down by environmental impact studies, shareholder accountability, and sanctions compliance, the Iranian entities moved with speed and singularity of purpose. They offered infrastructure packages, roads, schools, and power plants, in exchange for mineral rights, deals that Western companies, focused purely on profit margins, were unwilling or unable to match. They operated through a complex web of subsidiaries, making direct attribution to the Iranian state nearly impossible for standard due diligence checks. Funds were routed through banks in Asia and the Middle East, bypassing the SWIFT system and rendering U.S. Treasury oversight ineffective. This is economic warfare waged in the gray zones, far from any battlefield, but with consequences that could be just as decisive. The implications extend beyond lithium. The secured deal is a strategic minerals package. Intelligence analysts are now confirming this includes access to some of the world's richest cobalt veins. Cobalt is the stabilizing element in high-performance lithium-ion batteries, preventing them from overheating and failing under the extreme stress of military applications, such as in the power source for a directed energy weapon or the battery of a deep-diving autonomous submarine. By bundling these resources, Iran isn't just controlling the supply, it is controlling the quality and capability of future military hardware. It can choose to flood the market with lower-grade materials, slowing general technological progress, while secretly diverting the highest purity, weapons-grade elements for its own advanced programs and those of its allies, including Russia and China. This initiative is also self-funding. Intercepted communications have established a direct link between the preliminary revenues from these mining ventures and increased funding for Iran's proxy forces. The Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon, and various militias in Iraq and Syria are seeing an influx of cash and equipment. The source of this new strength is not oil, which is heavily monitored, but the untraceable profits from the minerals being sold on the open market to unwitting Western corporations. The central question for NATO and its allies now becomes a chilling one. Is the West, through its own globalized supply chains, now inadvertently funding the very militias that are targeting its forces and interests across the Middle East? The system has been turned against itself. The failure to anticipate this move represents a significant blind spot for Western intelligence agencies. For years, the focus was on conventional threats: ballistic missiles, naval swarm tactics, and cyber attacks. The slow, patient, and deliberately non-military nature of this economic conquest went largely unnoticed, dismissed as simple commercial activity rather than a coordinated act of strategic warfare. Reports from the United States Geological Survey and the European Commission have repeatedly warned of critical mineral dependencies for over a decade. Yet, political and corporate inertia has prevented any meaningful action. Efforts to increase domestic mining and processing have been met with fierce local opposition and regulatory gridlock. The West has effectively outsourced its own security, creating a dependency that Tehran is now poised to exploit to its fullest extent. The consequences are no longer theoretical. A new classified Pentagon assessment reveals a terrifying leap in Iranian drone capabilities, directly tied to materials sourced from these new operations. The latest generation of the Shahed series drone, the Shahed 149, was previously limited by battery life, with a maximum flight time of approximately 24 hours. A new variant, secretly tested last month, remained airborne for over 70 hours. This changes everything. This is a new, critical piece of information that alters the balance of power in the Persian Gulf. What was once a tactical nuisance is now a persistent, strategic threat. With this advancement, how close is Iran to achieving effective drone superiority and creating a permanent no-go zone for naval assets? This enhanced endurance is achieved through a new battery chemistry, one that relies on a uniquely pure cobalt-lithium alloy that Western manufacturers are currently unable to mass-produce due to a lack of raw material access. This alloy allows for a 35% increase in energy density without a corresponding increase in weight. The drones can fly further, loiter longer, and carry heavier payloads. They can be launched from deep within Iran and still possess enough fuel to patrol the crucial Strait of Hormuz for days on end, observing, targeting, and waiting. The threat is manifesting in real time. Just hours ago, U.S. Space Command began tracking a significant anomaly originating from a known IRGC airbase near Bandar Abbas. Multiple unmanned aerial vehicles were launched, but they did not follow typical flight paths for patrols over Iraq or Syria. Instead, they ascended to an unusually high altitude of 60,000 feet and headed south, over the Gulf of Oman. Their thermal and electronic signatures do not match any known drone in Iran's public inventory. They are smaller, faster, and appear to be operating in a networked swarm. NORAD intelligence is assessing the situation, but initial telemetry is deeply concerning. These drones are not behaving like reconnaissance platforms. They are flying tactical formations, moving with a purpose that suggests a pre-planned mission. Naval intelligence operating out of Bahrain is correlating the drone tracks with maritime positions. The USS Harry S. Truman Carrier Strike Group, currently on station in the Arabian Sea, is directly in the flight path of this unidentified swarm. The carrier has been placed on high alert, and F/18 Super Hornets have been scrambled to intercept. But there is a problem. The drones are flying too high, and their unique energy signature suggests they may be equipped with a new generation of electronic countermeasures. The first intercept attempt has failed. The fighters cannot get a weapons lock. On board the Truman, the Combat Information Center is a storm of controlled chaos. The Aegis combat system, one of the most advanced defense networks on Earth, is being systematically blinded. The drones aren't just jamming radar, they're feeding it false information. Ghost signals, phantom missile launches, sowing confusion and hesitation. The message from the Iranians is clear. We can touch you whenever we want, and you are powerless to stop it. But then, something even more disturbing happens. The swarm doesn't descend. It doesn't initiate an attack run. It holds its altitude and formation, and flies directly over the carrier strike group, completely unopposed. It's a ghost fleet, passing judgment from the edge of space. The entire multi-billion-dollar embodiment of American power is reduced to a spectator. This wasn't an attack. It was a parade, a demonstration of absolute impunity. The pilots and the F/A-18s can only watch as the targets they were sent to destroy simply fly past them. But why? Why reveal such a game-changing capability without using it? What is the strategic value in simply showing your hand? What if the target isn't the carrier at all? What if the carrier is just the bait, the audience, for an entirely different kind of performance? The answer may lie in what the drones left behind. As they cleared the carrier's airspace, satellite and long-range optical trackers picked up multiple, minute deployments. Tiny objects, no bigger than a smartphone, were released from the drones' underbellies. They are not explosives. They are not transmitting any detectable radio signals. They are simply falling. Their trajectory places them not on the ships, but into the ocean, along the world's most critical shipping lane for oil and gas. Are they sensors? A new kind of sea mine that lies dormant? Or something far more insidious? The leading theory, and the one that is sending a wave of panic through the intelligence community, is that these are not military devices in the conventional sense. Intercepted data bursts between the drones during the flyover contained encrypted packets that don't match any known Iranian military protocol. A team at the NSA, working around the clock, has managed to crack a single fragment. What they found wasn't targeting data or battle commands. It was a string of complex algorithmic code, subtly linked to the commodity futures markets for Brent crude oil. The operation wasn't an attack on the U.S. Navy. It was a threat against the global economy. The code fragment confirmed the Pentagon's worst fears. This wasn't a rehearsal for war. It was the opening move in a new kind of conflict. A war fought not with missiles, but with algorithms and market panic. The drones were the message, but the tiny objects they deployed are the blackmail note. They are not mines. They are networked, semi-autonomous, acoustic triggers. Designed to lie dormant on the seabed, they activate only when the unique sound signature of a supertanker's propeller passes overhead. They then attach to the hull, silent and undetectable by any conventional means. Once attached, they wait. They contain no explosives. Their payload is far more potent. A single, targeted EMP burst capable of instantly disabling a tanker's navigation and engine controls, leaving it dead in the water. The threat is surgical, scalable, and deniable. At any moment, Iran can choose to turn the world's most vital artery of commerce into a colossal, gridlocked parking lot, blocking the strait without firing a single shot. The global economy is now a hostage. The ransom was delivered by a fleet of untouchable ghosts, and the trigger is held by an invisible hand. And the USS Harry S. Truman? It can project more firepower than most nations, but it can't shoot an algorithm. It can't bomb a market crash. It sits there, a multi-billion-dollar monument to a form of warfare that may have become obsolete overnight. This is the new frontline, a battlefield where the most advanced jet fighter is rendered useless by a device the size of a brick and a few lines of malevolent code. The rules have changed. The invisible conflicts that dictate our lives, from the price of fuel to the stability of nations, are being fought right now in the shadows and on the exchanges. This is more than a news story. It is a fundamental shift in global power. To understand the crises that will define our future, you need more than headlines. You need intelligence. Subscribe to global_crisis_radar and never miss a signal.